Welcome back, y'all, to Zeratov, where, we planting them seeds of knowledge and watching them grow. Today, we're gonna be digging into the life of, well, you know him, one of the most well-known figures in the Bible, the Apostle Peter.
That's right. This man went from just a simple fisherman all the way to, like, the rock of the early church.
That's right, that's right.
It's a journey, with some serious ups and downs, but it's absolutely packed with lessons for all of us, even today.
Yeah, no doubt. Man, that's deep. It's wild to think about Peter, just a regular dude named Simon becoming like this pillar of faith, you know what I'm saying? What was his life even like before he met up with Jesus?
Well, Peter was a fisherman, living a life, like, deeply tied to tradition and the sea.
Right.
His community, they depended on each other, and their whole understanding of God was shaped by, like, Jewish law and all that. When Jesus came along preaching love and forgiveness, it challenged everything they thought they knew. It was a total, like, shakeup.
Okay, so I see how following Jesus meant Peter had to, like, flip his whole world upside down. He was risking everything familiar for something totally new and unknown. But, like, was there something specific about Jesus' message? Something that made Peter decide to drop everything and follow him?
That's a great question. Think about it. Like, Roman society at the time saw fishing as an essential job, even like tax exempt. For Peter to just walk away from that, like, he was making a powerful statement. It wasn't just about changing jobs. It was about challenging the very fabric of his society, embracing a radical new way of life.
Dang, that's heavy. I can only imagine the societal pressures he was up against. Fishing wasn't just a job, it was like his whole community. I wonder if he was ostracized, for following Jesus.
That's definitely possible. I mean, we see throughout the Gospels that Jesus was a controversial figure, right? His teachings, they often clashed with the religious establishment.
Yeah.
And his followers were often, marginalized and persecuted. So, yeah, Peter would have definitely faced pushback from those who saw Jesus as a threat.
That's true. But even with all that pressure, Peter's faith, like, it wasn't always rock solid, right? He had those moments of doubt, like, when he denied knowing Jesus. Do you think that that makes him more human? Or does it, like, kind of diminish his authority, in the eyes of some believers?
I think it absolutely humanizes him.
Yeah.
We often, like, put these biblical figures on a pedestal,
Yeah.
We forget they had doubts and fears just like us. Peter's denial, while it was a, significant moment, it shows us that even those closest to Jesus, they struggled with their faith.
I feel that. It's like if Peter, who messed up so publicly, could still become a leader of the church, then, there's hope for the rest of us, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why, we need to understand the story of Peter's denial, but more importantly, his restoration.
Okay.
Jesus forgave Peter.
Yeah.
He gave him another chance, showing us the incredible power of compassion and forgiveness.
Okay, so break it down for me. How does a dude go from denying Jesus to lead in the early church? Like, wouldn't that make people, question his leadership?
That's what makes his story so powerful. Think about it. Peter messed up big time, but instead of rejection, he was embraced. You know what I mean? Jesus' mercy and forgiveness, they were key to his transformation. Peter learned about humility, about relying on God's grace, and that really shaped his whole leadership style.
So that experience, like, really changed him, huh? How did it affect the kind of leader he became?
Well, he went through the fire. He knew what it was like to doubt, to make mistakes, and then to be forgiven. That made him more compassionate and understanding of others, going through similar struggles.
That's real. He could connect with people on a deeper level because he'd been there himself.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just about his personality, right? He had a major role in shaping the early church, right?
Exactly. After Jesus ascended, Peter became a prominent leader, preaching with authority, especially about the resurrection. His passion and conviction, they drew people in, and he was known for his powerful speaking and even performing miracles.
Hold up, miracles? Like, what kind of miracles are we talking here?
There are accounts, in the book of Acts about Peter healing the sick, even raising a woman named Tabitha from the dead.
What?
He wasn't playing around.
Wow, for real. Okay, so this dude went from simple fisherman to preaching and performing miracles. That's like a serious glow up. But, leading a brand new religious movement couldn't have been easy, especially back then. What kind of challenges did he face?
You're absolutely right. The early Christians, they were seen as a threat to, like, the established order, both religiously and politically. They faced opposition from all sides, persecution, imprisonment, sometimes even death. And remember, Peter was right in the thick of it. He was a prime target. because of his, prominent role.
Man, that's heavy. I'm curious, how he handled all that pressure. I mean, this is the same dude who denied Jesus out of fear, right? So how do you find the courage to lead in such a, hostile environment?
It really is remarkable, isn't it? Peter's transformation, from fear to boldness, it's a testament to the power of faith and, the Holy Spirit. Remember the story of him walking on water? It's a perfect example of his, initial faith and then his wavering trust.
Yeah, that story always stuck with me. He sees Jesus walking on the water and, just jumps out the boat. That's some serious faith.
Absolutely. But then he takes his eyes off Jesus, starts focusing on the wind and the waves, and, what happens? He starts to sink. It's a powerful metaphor. When we focus on our problems and we forget about God, we lose our footing.
I feel that. It's like when doubt creeps in and we forget who's really in control, we end up sinking under the weight of our worries. But, Peter cried out to Jesus and Jesus immediately reached out and saved him.
Yeah, exactly. Even in our moments of weakness, even when our faith wavers, God's grace is always there to lift us up. Peter's story, it's a reminder that it's okay to have doubts, to be afraid. What matters is how we respond. Do we turn towards God or, away from him?
That's deep. It's like our struggles don't define us. It's about, learning from our mistakes and allowing God to work through us even in our mess-ups. But let's go back to Peter's leadership in the early church for a second. You mentioned all the opposition they faced. How did they handle that, that constant pressure and that threat of persecution?
It was a truly turbulent time. Imagine trying to build a new movement, like a new way of life, when people see you as a threat. Peter and the early Christians, they faced imprisonment, physical harm, and even death, for their beliefs.
Dang, that's heavy. You said Peter was a prime target for this opposition. Why was that? What made him such a threat to, the established order?
Peter was bold and unwavering in his message. He was a powerful preacher, performing miracles and speaking truth to power, even when it was dangerous. His actions and his teachings, they directly challenged the religious and political authorities of the time, and, that made him a target.
So he wasn't shying away from the heat. He was out there in the fire, spreading the message of Jesus, no matter the cost, and through it all, he never wavered in his faith.
That's the incredible part. Peter's transformation was complete. He went from denying Jesus out of fear to boldly proclaiming him, in the face of danger. The same man who was afraid for his life now performed miracles, healed the sick, and even raised people from the dead, knowing he could be arrested or killed at any moment.
Hold up, wait a minute. He raised people from the dead? Seriously, tell me more about that. What's the story there?
It's recorded in the book of Acts. Peter raised a woman named Tabitha, also known as Dorcas, back to life. It's a powerful testament to the power working through him and, the depth of his faith. And that's not the only miracle he performed. He healed a man crippled from birth, showing the compassion and the healing power of God, through him.
Man, that's amazing. It sounds like Peter's leadership was shaped by, everything he'd gone through, all the highs and lows of his journey with Jesus. How would you describe, his leadership style?
I think his experiences, those moments of doubt and forgiveness, they instilled in him a deep sense of empathy. He understood what it meant to struggle, to make mistakes, and to receive grace. That made him a relatable and compassionate leader.
Okay, so he was a man of the people, someone who walked in their shoes. But he also had to be strong, right? Able to guide the early church through all that opposition. How did he manage that balance?
That's the beauty of Peter's story. His strength, it wasn't about power or control. It came from his vulnerability and his reliance on God. He wasn't afraid to show his humanity, to admit his weaknesses, and that made him a more authentic and, effective leader. People saw him as someone who understood them, someone they could trust.
So true. It takes courage to be vulnerable, especially when you're a leader. It shows a level of authenticity that people connect with. Now, besides all the preaching and the leading, Peter also found time to write those letters, right? Tell me more about that side of his ministry. What kind of wisdom did he share with the early believers?
His letters, they're just filled with guidance and encouragement, for Christians.
Right.
He covers all these themes: hope, perseverance, holy living. He understood that faith isn't always, a walk in the park. He wanted to prepare believers for the challenges.
Right. So basically he was dropping gems on how to stay strong in your faith when things get rough. What kind of challenges was he preparing them for?
Well, remember, the early Christians, they faced intense persecution.
Right.
Peter knew that following Jesus, it wasn't always going to be easy.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to equip them to stand firm in their beliefs. even when facing opposition and suffering and temptation.
Okay, so he's telling them to be ready for the hard times, to hold on to their faith even when it's tough. What else? What else did he emphasize?
He reminded them that their faith wasn't just about believing, it was about living it out,
Right.
He challenged them to put their faith into action, love one another, serve others, and be a light,
So it's don't just talk the talk, walk the walk.
Exactly.
Show the world what your faith means through your actions and how you treat others. That's powerful stuff.
It's about reflecting God's love in everything we do, even when we face adversity. Peter actually wrote about how suffering can strengthen our faith, draw us closer to God. He understood that trials and tribulations, they're part of the journey, but they don't have to break us.
That's real. It's like going through hard times. It can refine our faith, make it stronger. But, it's not easy to find hope and strength when you're in the middle of all that suffering. How did Peter suggest people, deal with that?
He reminded them that they weren't alone. He emphasized, the power of community, of supporting and encouraging each other. He knew that having people to lean on, to pray with, to walk alongside you through the tough times, it could make all the difference.
Yeah, community is definitely key. It's like having a support system, folks who understand what you're going through.
Absolutely. Peter also emphasized the importance of, relying on God's strength, not our own.
Right.
He reminded them that they had access to a power greater than themselves, a power that could sustain them through any challenge.
It's about tapping into that higher power, right? Recognizing that we don't have to do everything on our own. We can draw strength and guidance, Man, we covered a lot of ground today, from fisherman to church leader, miracles, persecution, and letters filled with, timeless wisdom. Peter's life is a testament to the power of faith and transformation. As we wrap up here, what's the biggest takeaway you think folks should remember?
I think Peter's story shows us that we're all capable of growth and change.
Yeah.
He made mistakes, had doubts, but through God's grace and forgiveness, he became a powerful example of faith and leadership. His life is a reminder that no matter what we've done, no matter how many times we've fallen short, there's always hope for redemption and a chance to be used for good.
That's a powerful message to end on. Peter's life is truly an inspiration, showing us that even ordinary people can do extraordinary things when they step out in faith and allow God to work through them. And that's it for today, folks. We hope you've been inspired by our exploration of the life of Peter. Keep those seeds of knowledge watered, and join us next time on Zeritov Sowing the Good Seed. Peace.